I set one condition at sundown and kept it. The girl had to ask before she touched anything of mine. Ask as a question, not holler from a doorway. Her old village had cast her out for carrying too much noise in her lungs. But noise alone was not a sin here. I told her that when she arrived, though, she only stared at the ground and held her small bundle tight against her chest. Wind moved softly through the cottonwoods that first night, rattling my bone chime above the door. The chime was small and pale, strung from deer sinew and smoothed with time, a thing meant to read shifting weather. She watched it swing as though it might judge her. I saw the tension in her shoulders, the way children brace before they're struck, even when no hand has been raised. She breathed quick and shallow, like someone trying to hide sound inside her ribs. Her name was Rose. She was maybe 10, maybe younger, with a thin scar near her left ear, where someone had once grabbed her too hard. She kept that side turned away, but sound has its own memory. Scars seldom stay quiet. She followed me into the lodge without a word, her steps soft on the packed earth, clutching that bundle the way some children hold a promise they don't know how to trust. "Set it there," I said, nodding to the woven mat by the fire pit. My voice was calm, soft as I could manage. She hesitated but obeyed. When she straightened, her eyes darted to the chime again. "What is that?" she whispered. "Bone chime," I said. "Weather speaks through it." "May I?" "Yes," I said, and let a breath out. "You asked first. That's enough." She reached up and tapped it once. The soft click rang out clearer than it should have, almost bright. She flinched and pulled her hand back, muttering an apology so fast it almost tangled her words. I shook my head. "No need," I said. "Sound just shows its shape around you." She frowned at that, confused, wary. Many adults don't notice the sound traces people leave when they walk or breathe, the small imprints of their fears and strengths. But this girl did. She seemed to feel them before I spoke the words. I laid out 2 bedrolls near opposite sides of the lodge, leaving space between us. Children without safety move sideways through the world. They don't trust close distances. When she sat, she curled her knees against her chest, keeping her boots on. Old habits of quick escape. Outside, night settled slow. The fire cracked softly. The bone chime ticked in the occasional breeze like a heartbeat that wasn't sure it was allowed to be loud. Morning came with frost across the brush and that metallic stillness before sunlight warms anything. I found her already awake, sitting cross-legged near the door flap, staring toward the eastern ridge. Her bundle sat untouched beside her. "You eat?" I asked. She shook her head. I passed her a small tin bowl with last night's stew. She didn't move. "Go on," I said. "We can start slow." She blinked, and something in her shoulders eased. Consent matters for the young as much as the grown. She tasted the food like she expected it to bite her. When it didn't, she let herself eat in small, quick mouthfuls. When she finished, I handed her a wooden ladle. "We draw water from the creek," I said. "Come with me." She followed, glancing behind us at the distant smoke of her old village, barely a smudge on the plain. No one had come after her. Villages seldom chase their noise once they've chased the child from whom it came. The creek swirled brown and cold. I dipped the ladle. She stepped back as the water slapped the rim. Her hands trembled. "It's only water," I said. "It sounds like teeth," she whispered. I listened. The creek burbled, low and steady, ordinary sound. But sound has different faces for different hearts, I nodded. "Then we learn its teeth," I said. "Name each one. Makes it smaller." She stared at the current, squinting as though she could sort every ripple into its own small box. For a moment, she forgot fear. The wind shifted and lifted her hair, and there it was again, that quick, bright hum around her presence, like the air itself strained to catch her voice. We filled 2 buckets and carried them back. She watched me the whole time, copying the way I walked, the way I let my breath fall in steady lines instead of tight bursts. Children mirror steadiness when it's offered. They mirror harm even faster. Back at the lodge, I set her to grinding herbs in a stone bowl. Her small fists pressed the pestle too hard, scattering bits of root across the mat. Not strength, I said, crouching beside her, just rhythm. She tried again, slower. The rasp of stone against root found a gentle cadence. She breathed easier. I let the silence stretch. Quiet work is its own medicine. Now and then she would shift as if to ask something, then stop herself. You can ask, I said. She startled. But I'm too loud. You're only loud when you're scared, I said. Noise is not a crime. Questions neither. She stared at the crushed herbs and said nothing. Sometimes a child needs to hear softness more than once before believing it. By the second day, she wandered outside on her own, following the line of my tracks from the morning chores. I'd been repairing a cracked drum near the fire pit. She approached carefully, as though sound itself might shatter under her feet. "Is that yours?" she asked, eyeing the drum. "It's for the council meet," I said. "Needs patching." She reached toward the torn hide, stopped, looked at me. "May I touch it?" "Go ahead," I said. Her fingertip brushed the hide. It made a faint thrum, too faint for most ears, but she heard more in it. Her eyes widened a little, like someone glimpsing a truth they weren't sure was safe. "It echoes," she murmured. I said. "Drums remember." She glanced up at me. "Do they forget?" "If you ask kindly." She smiled. Small, quick, but real. That was the first time I saw her smile. It made something settle in my chest. Later, we gathered wood along the cottonwood line. She picked the wrong branches at first. Too green, too damp. But her willingness made up for her mistakes. Each time I corrected her, she listened with a seriousness beyond her years. When she carried the bundle back toward the lodge, her boots sank in the soft dirt, leaving deep tracks. A hawk circled overhead, its cry sharp and lonely. Rose stopped and looked up, her face scrunched in wonder. "Do you hear it?" she asked. "I do." "It doesn't sound angry," she said. "It sounds like it's asking something." "What do you think it's asking?" She chewed her lip. "If we're listening." "Out of the mouths of children." I nodded once. We spent the afternoon weaving a windbreak from willow branches. She worked in silence, brow tight in concentration. I could tell she enjoyed tasks with a pattern. They kept her mind from spinning out in too many directions. Work is good for troubled souls. It teaches the body a place to stand. When the wind picked up near dusk, she pointed at the bone chime hanging from the lodge post. "It sounds different than yesterday," she said. "It does." "Why?" "Because you're here," I said simply. "People change the sound of a place." She looked at the chime for a long moment, then at me. "Do I make it worse?" "No," I said. "You make it honest." On the third morning, she woke before me. I found her sitting cross-legged at the entrance again. But this time, she wasn't staring at the ridge. She was humming, soft, controlled, steady. A single note, held long as she could manage. The bone chime quivered with each breath she shaped. I crouched beside her. "That's good," I said. She flinched, ashamed. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be." "You weren't," I said. "You were listening." Her cheeks pinked. "It helps my chest not hurt." I nodded. "Sound is a tool, like a knife, like a drum." She frowned. "They said it breaks things." "Only if you use it wrong," I said. "Here, we learn the right way." She swallowed, thinking it over. Then, "Will you teach me?" "If you want." She nodded. Small, decisive. Children know when they're choosing a path, even if they don't say it aloud. We spent the morning practicing breath lines. I showed her how to let air ride low in the belly, not high in the throat. She struggled at first. Her breaths burst out hard and sharp, but she listened with her whole body. She corrected herself faster than most grown men. "When you breathe like that," she said, "the world sounds wider." "It is." She hummed again, gentler this time. The chime responded, bowing inward as though greeting a friend. At midday, we walked to the ridge to gather sage. Clouds stacked low and blue beyond the horizon, smelling of late spring rain. As we harvested, she asked the questions she'd been holding in her ribs. Why her village cast her out, whether noise could harm from far away, whether sound had a shape. Her voice was soft, but each question trembled with fear of the answer. "They said I called storms," she whispered. "I didn't mean to." "You didn't," I said. "Storms come on their own." "But the night they blamed me," I screamed. It was dark, and someone grabbed me and She cut off, breath hitching. The sage rustled around us, small leaves tapping like polite fingers. I waited. Silence is sometimes a better teacher than speech. "I don't want to hurt anyone," she whispered. "You won't," I said. "Noise isn't harm. Intention is." She stared at the bundle of sage in her hands. Her fingers shook. I gently placed my hand near hers. Close enough to be felt, far enough not to startle. "You're safe here," I said. The wind hummed across the ridge. She let out a shaky breath. We returned to find a young hunter waiting near the lodge, Joseph, from a neighboring band. He carried a small pouch and a worried look. "Tracks on the west trail," he said quietly. "Outlaws, 5 or 6. Rose froze beside me. "Likely passing through," Joseph added, "but they're close." I nodded. Outlaws weren't new. Trouble blows through these plains like dust. But 5 or 6 was enough to worry a village, especially one that had cast out a girl who might have been its sharpest warning. Joseph eyed Rose curiously, but said nothing about her. Good man, that boy. When he left, Rose tugged my sleeve. "They'll come here?" "Maybe," I said. "Maybe not." Her breath hitched. "They're loud." "Yes," I said, "and we'll hear them coming." Her eyes flicked to the bone chime. "It will warn us." "If you listen," I said, "and if you trust yourself." That evening, rain licked the ground, soft as sewing needles. The warmth of the fire filled the lodge. Rose watched the chime sway, repeating her humming in small, careful notes. This time, she stayed steady, even when thunder rolled far off. "What if they hurt you?" she asked suddenly. "They won't," I said. "Storms pass." She shifted closer. "I don't want them to hurt anyone." "Then we work on listening," I said. She swallowed. Hope and fear tangled together behind her eyes. The chime gave a bright, sudden tap, a note out of place like a question hung in the air. She startled. "What was that?" "A shift," I said. "Wind moved east." She stared at it. It sounded like a question. It was. She leaned against a lodge post then, small shoulders finally loosening, her breath steady and low. The fire crackled, rain softened around us. I watched her watching the chime, this small orphan girl who carried sound like a gift no one had taught her how to unwrap. Outside, the plains waited. Trouble hadn't arrived yet. But it would. Trouble always does. For now, though, she sat safely within a circle of light, learning the shape of her breath, the steadiness of her own voice. And the chime kept answering her. The storm settled overnight, leaving the ground dark and soft, the kind of earth that remembers tracks too clearly. At dawn, Rose stood at the door flap, staring at the mud like it might speak. The bone chime hung still, dew gathered on every pale edge. She held her breath, waiting for something she couldn't name. "When the world is quiet," I told her, stepping up beside her, "it's not promise or threat, just quiet." She nodded, but her hands were tight at her sides. Children who've been blamed for storms don't trust silence. Silence, to them, is what people stand on before turning. We walked the ridge trail after sunrise, checking the posts where elders sometimes left messages or traded herbs. No new marks, only the thin print of a fox and the larger, flat heel of a rider from days ago. Rose crouched beside the tracks, studying the indentation as though sound itself had left a memory there. "Do hoofbeats echo after they stop?" she asked. "They do," I said. "In the ribs if you listen." She rested her palm over her chest, testing the idea. The morning wind carried a faint sweetness from the sage fields, and her breath followed it, a little steadier. On our way back, she hummed a short line under her breath, barely a whisper, but sure. The chime trembled when we stepped through the lodge doorway, as though greeting her return. "You feel it?" I asked. She nodded. "It answers. Most things do, when addressed kindly." She considered that, then sat by the fire pit and began sorting dried roots without prompting. Order calmed her. Work does that for many. By mid-morning, Joseph returned. His horse was nervous, neck slick with sweat, and his voice kept low. "They're close," he said. 3 miles west. Outlaws, the ones who robbed the freight wagon last winter." Rose tensed behind me. She didn't hide it well, not yet. "Any hurt?" I asked. "Not yet, they're scouting." The hunter looked at Rose again, not unkindly. "Your chime's been sounding strange this morning." "It listens," I said. He gave a slow nod. "If anything shifts, send word." He left in a spray of mud. Rose watched him vanish, shoulders tight again. "They'll come here," she whispered. "No," I said. "They'll come near. That's different." "But—" "Rose," I knelt to her eye level. "Fear makes sound run wild. But you're learning control." She clenched her fists. "I don't want to scream. It scares people." "Only if you let fear guide it," I said. "Sound obeys intention." She swallowed hard. Her gaze drifted to the bone chime. It hung motionless, dew drying slowly. Can sound protect?" she asked. "Yes," I said simply. "Like wind protects leaves by warning them. Like drums bring people together." She hesitated. "Could it stop a bullet?" I met her gaze square. "Under the right breath, under the right will." She didn't blink. "Teach me." Then we start. Learning the sound lines takes time. Breath must be steady enough to shape the air, but loose enough to carry it. We began with simple pulses. I tapped a hollow gourd with my thumb, soft and low. She mirrored the rhythm with her breath. "Keep it round," I said. "What's round sound?" "Full, without sharp edges." She frowned, puffing out a breath that came too hard. "That's a stone," I said. "Try again. Make it a river." Her next breath curved gently, almost shy. The chime responded, its lowest bone tipping as though bowing. She gasped. It moved. "It heard you," I said. Her face lit with quiet wonder. Not loud, never loud now, just bright. We spent hours weaving breath lines with small props, a shallow bowl of water, a hanging strip of hide, the chime itself. She learned how to make the water shiver without splashing, how to coax the hide, to tremble in waves instead of jerks. She learned where to focus the sound, not from her throat, but from the hollow behind the sternum, where intention lives. "Why there?" she asked. "Because that's where truth sits," I said. She didn't argue. Children who have been lied to too often recognize truth by feel. By the time the sun stood high, her breasts held shape. Not strong yet, but honest. Sweat darkened her hairline. She wiped her brow with the back of her sleeve. "Will it be enough?" she asked. "For what?" "For the bad men." I paused. Protection isn't always stopping harm. Sometimes it's guiding it away. She thought about that, then nodded once. Crisp. We drank cool water from the clay jar. If you haven't had any in a while, this is your gentle reminder to hydrate or stretch for a moment. Outside, thunder muttered in the far hills. Not a new storm, just leftover weather trying to find its way back to the sky. We carried the drum outside for testing. The ground was soft, smelled of rain. I showed her how to anchor her feet, heels steady, toes soft, like she was listening to the soil. When fear comes, I said, the world narrows, but sound widens it. She inhaled slow. Her breath came out warm and steady. The drum skin trembled. Again, I said. She breathed. The drum skin fluttered. Not fear, not panic, intention. Then, without warning, a crack echoed across the valley. Not thunder, a rifle. Rose flinched violently, breath shattering, sound scattering like glass. The drum thudded flat. Her eyes widened in terror. "It's close," she whispered. "No," I said softly, listening. Echo carried it. She shook her head. It sounded like it was right beside me. "That's fear speaking," I said, "not truth." But she was trembling too hard to hear reason. I steadied her shoulder. "Rose, look at me." She did, barely. "You was safe here," I said. "Fear doesn't get to be louder than you." She swallowed, but her breath steadied. We stood there until her trembling eased. Rain clouds shifted. Light broke through, slanting across the ridge. She lifted her chin. "Teach me the stopping sound," she said. "Not yet," I answered. "First, the listening sound." She frowned. "If you try to stop harm before you can hear its shape," I said, "your breath will break. Listening comes first." "Like the chime?" "Exactly." She accepted this, though reluctance pulled at the corners of her mouth. Still, she followed me back inside without argument. Inside the lodge, she sat cross-legged and watched me string new sinew onto the drum. My knife scraped lightly along the wood frame. She traced the sound with her eyes. "That sound is smooth," she said. "Because the blade is honest," I said. "Dull knives lie. Sharp ones tell the truth." She tilted her head. "People lie too." "They do." Do I?" I looked at her. "Only when you're scared." She nodded. She already knew that answer. I gave her a strip of tanned hide. "Hold it up." She did. The hide hung stiff. "Now listen." I exhaled in a low, even breath. The hide wavered, trembling like a leaf touched by a breeze. Rose blinked fast. "You didn't touch it." "No." Her brows pulled together. "How do I do that?" "Patience," I said, "and practice." She practiced until her breaths grew ragged. Each time, the hide moved only a little. But movement is movement. Progress doesn't shout. It hums. As evening came, her humming returned, steady, soft. And for the first time, she didn't look frightened of the sound. We ate stew in shared quiet. Outside, wind brushed the cottonwoods. The bone chime tapped gently twice. 2 clear asks, 2 bright notes. She froze mid-bite. "It's warning us." "No," I said. "It's noting the shift in wind." "It sounds different." Her voice thinned. "Like before." Her breath quickened. "It's okay," I said. "Noise is not danger." But she pushed her bowl aside, rising to her feet. "It's the same as the night they blamed me. The wind changed just before the house." Her voice cut off. Her hands flew to her ears. The chime trembled sharply. A high, thin note sang out, one I'd never heard from it. Rose flinched. "What was that?" "Your breath hit it," I said. Her eyes widened. I didn't breathe loud. "No," I said, "but you breathed sharp." She stared at her hands as though they might betray her again. "Sit," I said gently. She shook her head. Rose. She backed away, shoulders tight, breath fast. I can't. What if I break it? What if I... You won't. But I stepped closer, slow as steady rain. Ask. She blinked. What? You forgot the rule, I said softly. Ask as a question. Her breath stuttered. The reminder steadied her. Rules protect, especially for children who've been cast out. She swallowed hard. May I sit? She asked. Yes, I said. And she did. Her breath softened. The chime steadied. Slowly, she lowered her hands from her ears. You didn't break anything, I said. Her voice was small. I felt like I might. That feeling is fear, I said, not truth. She stared at the fire for a long moment, letting her shoulders fall back into place. Later, she curled into her bedroll early, her small frame tight. I kept the fire low and the night quiet. Just past midnight, a sound drifted through the valley, distant, careful hoofbeats, real this time. I rose to check outside. The moon lit the plain in pale silver. A figure moved far off, too far to see clearly, but close enough for worry. I returned inside. Rose lay awake, staring at the roof poles. They're coming, she whispered. Not yet, I said. Why does it feel like they are? Because you can hear farther than most, I crouched beside her. And because you're still learning the difference between fear and listening. She sat up slowly. Can you teach me the difference? I can. She looked down at her hands. Before trouble comes? Yes. She nodded, a small, firm nod. We'll start tomorrow, I said. The wind hissed outside, the soft hiss of grass leaning under moonlight. Rose listened with her whole body. Her breath didn't shake this time. Will the chime help? She asked. It will, I said, and so will you. She touched her fingers to the bone chime string, hesitant. The chime gave a soft, answering click. Her expression softened. It's not afraid. No, I said. It never was. She climbed back into her bedroll, eyes heavy but calm. The fire settled into a low ember glow. Outside, the plains waited. Trouble had not reached our doorstep yet. But it had found its way into the valley, sure as night follows dusk. Still, Rose slept with the bone chime beside her. And I believed, truly believed, that sound would answer her again when the time came. By dawn, the wind had shifted again, brushing eastward across the plain in long, steady breaths. Rose woke before I did, sitting cross-legged at the lodge entrance as if she'd slept there all night. The bone chime hung above her, tilting slightly, catching the new wind. She held herself still, listening so intently her shoulders barely rose. What do you hear? I asked. She didn't look back. Something heavy, far, but moving slow. Hooves? She shook her head. No, it sounds like metal remembering it used to be fire. I considered that. Rifles often carry a faint metallic hum after firing, long after the shot itself is gone. Most folks can't hear it. Rose could. You're learning, I said. She wrapped her arms around her knees. I don't want to hear bad things. Hearing isn't harm, I said. What you do with it matters. She nodded, though she looked unconvinced. We ate simple breakfast, corn mush and dried berries, and stepped outside to work. The sky held that clear, pale blue color that belongs only to mornings after rain. The earth was soft beneath our boots, giving a little with each step. She followed me to the ridge, where I'd set a small circle of stones. Today, I said, we learn the shape of danger, not by fear, by listening to its edges. She looked at the stones. Do dangers have edges? All things do. What about sound? Especially sound. She chewed on that. We started with simple tests. I snapped a twig near her right shoulder. She turned her head, breath steady, eyes focused. Then I rubbed my thumb across the ridge of a dry leaf. She identified the direction without hesitation. Good, I said. Now again. I rustled a small hide from behind her. She stiffened, but didn't flinch this time. It sounds nervous, she said. I smiled. Does it? She nodded, like it wants to run. Even objects remember movement, I said. Sound teaches you that. She practiced for most of the morning. Each time she reacted, she grew more sure of herself. Less a child startled by noise, more a young listener shaping the world's breath into meaning. At midday, we rested under the cottonwoods. Clouds drifted like thin smoke above us. The breeze carried a faint metallic hum. Distant, yes, but present. Rose froze. That's the sound from this morning. It is, I said. Why hasn't it gone away? Because someone's cleaning a rifle or testing it. She wrapped her arms around her ribs. They're getting closer. I didn't answer. Truth rarely needs to be spoken to a child who can already feel it. She took a long breath, releasing it slowly. Teach me the stopping sound. You're not ready, I said. She stiffened. I can listen now. I can make the chime move. I can. Rose, I said gently. The stopping sound doesn't begin with strength. It begins with mercy. If you use it with fear or anger, it breaks you before it stops anything. She swallowed hard. I don't want to hurt anyone. And you won't, I said, but the choice must be clear. She looked down at her hands. They were small, scarred in places, work-worn for a girl her age. What choice? She whispered. That you use your breath only to protect, never to strike. She hesitated. I choose that. Say it again. She straightened a little. I choose to protect. And again. I choose to protect. Her voice didn't shake the third time. Good. The late afternoon sun slid low, throwing long shadows across the plain. We returned to the lodge for a short rest. She sat by the fire, hands curled in her lap, watching the bone chime sway with each soft brush of wind. Why does it answer me? She asked. It answers intention, I said. Yours is honest. She considered that, then reached out and tapped the lowest bone. It swung once, then settled. Could it warn the village? She asked. It already does, I said, but the village must choose to listen. She lowered her gaze. They never listened to me. They didn't know how. I was loud. I shook my head. You were unheard. Her eyes softened. Not quite trust, but something near it. When the sun dipped behind the ridge, we stepped outside again. The wind carried clearer signs now, heavier footfalls, metal clinking, voices carried in faint threads. The outlaws were no more than a mile off. Rose inhaled sharply. They're too close. Yes. Should we hide? No, I said. We stand where we can see truth before it arrives. She stepped closer to me. Her breath trembled again. She was learning control, but fear still had its claws. Rose, I said quietly, remember the rule. Ask as a question? Yes, it keeps you steady. She nodded. Then, may I stand behind you? She whispered. Yes. So she did. The outlaws crested the ridge near dusk. 5 riders, weary-looking, dirty from long miles. Not rabid men, not men hunting blood. Men hungry enough to consider theft if the moment favored them. Their leader, John Mackley, a name I'd heard in Wounded Whispers the year before, rolled slightly ahead. His rifle lay across his saddle, not drawn but too close to comfort. I lifted a hand. Mackley, I said. Evening. He squinted down at me. Shaman! His gaze drifted to Rose. She stiffened, though she kept her breath contained in her ribs the way she'd practiced. What's the girl to you? Mackley asked. Work, I said plainly. Same as anything worth keeping. He grunted. We're looking for supplies and a place to rest our horses. We have little, I said. But the creek still runs, and the ground here's soft. He eyed me, calculating. We don't want trouble, he said. Then none will find you. One of his men coughed, leaning forward in the saddle. He looked feverish. Another horse limped, favoring a back leg. These weren't raiders seeking glory. They were worn men on the edge of desperation. We can let you water your stock, I said. Nothing more. Mackley considered this. Someone reported a girl screaming storms down on the valley. That you? Rose's breath cracked. The bone chime trembled sharply. I stepped slightly in front of her. No storms here, I said. Only wind. Mackley grunted again. We're not hunting children. We're hunting rest. His men dismounted slowly, every movement tired. One leaned too far and nearly fell. Rose watched them, her hands curled into fists. Fear, yes, but also something else. Recognition of wounded souls trying to look dangerous. They led their horses to the creek. Mackley stayed behind, rifle still too near his grip. Rose whispered behind me, he's going to shoot. Not unless he must, I said quietly. But his rifle feels angry. I listened. The faint metallic hum in the air throbbed gently. Not anger, just readiness. Rose, I said, listen deeper. She did. Her breath steadied. It sounds tired. Good. Mackley approached one step. Heard the council might be gathering soon. That true? They'll meet when the land asks them to, I said. He snorted. Land doesn't ask, men decide. That belief has caused you trouble before, I said. He stiffened, but didn't raise the rifle. Behind us, the bone chime swung once, tapping out a low question. Mackley frowned. What's that? Wind, I said. Rose whispered, it's warning. It's asking. I corrected softly, but she wasn't wrong. The wind had shifted again, faster this time, carrying the scent of something sharp. Not danger. Choice. Mackley took another step. We need food. We have none to spare. He lifted his rifle, not at me, but upward, a warning gesture, though his finger drifted too close to the trigger. Rose gasped. Her breath snapped loose, sharp and uncontrolled. The chime shuddered violently. Mackley startled and steadied his rifle. Careful, I said calmly. She's learning her breath. He narrowed his eyes. She your apprentice? Yes. Then keep her in check. She keeps herself, I said. Rose swallowed. She wanted to flee, but she didn't. She held her ground, gripping the lodge post with one hand. Rose, I said softly, what do you feel? She closed her eyes. Her breath wavered, then steadied into a soft, round hum. He doesn't want to shoot, she whispered, but he thinks he might have to. Why? Because he's hungry. Mackley stiffened, but didn't deny it. Rose opened her eyes, looking at him. Not with fear now, but with something like quiet recognition. They're like the men from my village, she murmured. Scared. That truth landed heavy between us. Mackley lowered the rifle first. We won't take food, he muttered. We'll water the horses and go. Good, I said. But as he turned, his boot slipped in the mud, his finger jerked, the rifle fired. The world snapped. The shot rang across the plain, echoing against the ridge. Rose flinched so sharply her breath nearly exploded from her chest. The bone chime leapt sideways. But she didn't scream. She inhaled one long, trembling, instinctive breath. Rose, I said calmly, find the round sound. She froze. Her eyes went wide. But she listened. Her next breath curved, soft and full. The echo of the rifle cracked against it, and bent. Bent. The sound didn't break. It redirected, rolling harmlessly across the ridge like thunder moving away. Mackley stared. stunned. What? What was that? Rose trembled, eyes wide with disbelief. I didn't mean, did I hurt anyone? No, I said softly. You protected. As you chose. She collapsed to her knees, breathing hard. Mackley stared at her like he'd just witnessed a mountain move. His men, hearing the shot and seeing no blood, looked equally confused. That wasn't natural, he whispered. It was mercy, I said, given freely. Mackley swallowed. His rifle hung useless at his side. We'll go, he said quietly. We won't trouble you again. He mounted slowly. His men followed. They rode away with no more words, leaving only hoofprints and a faint metallic hum fading behind them. Rose knelt in the mud long after they vanished. Her breath steadied, then slowed. I didn't mean to stop it, she whispered. You meant to protect, I said, and you did. She looked up at me, eyes wet, face pale. I felt the sound change, like it asked me where to go. That's the shape of mercy, I said. It listens back. She wiped her face with her sleeve. Will they come back? No, I said. Fear left with them. She exhaled slowly. For the first time, her breath made no sharp corners, only soft curves. The bone chime tapped once, low and sure. She looked at it, then at her hands. Can sound heal? Yes, I said, when used right. She nodded once, as if sealing something inside her chest. We walked back toward the lodge. The sky was deepening toward dusk. That soft violet hour when sound carries farther but gentler. She held the chime string as she walked, fingers steady. Behind us, the wind shifted west again. And for the first time, she didn't flinch. After the outlaws left, the valley returned to its quieter breath. Days later, Rose hung the bone chime on a cottonwood branch just outside the lodge, where the wind could greet it first. Evening light settled soft along the bark, turning each pale piece of bone the color of warm milk. She stood beneath it with her palms open, catching whatever small notes drifted down. A meadowlark landed nearby, tilting its head at her humming. She hummed back, round, gentle, sure. The bird didn't startle. Even the wind stayed patient, listening. She looked at me then, eyes steady, voice low. The world's not so loud when it knows I'm listening. If you feel moved, you're welcome to leave a kind comment for the next listener. Thank you for being here. The Orphans and Found Family stories wait gently in the playlist.